Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here today at Varusteleka in Finland, just after the end of Finnish Brutality 2024. And it was a thoroughly exhausting match. It was a fantastic match, but I did not have a chance to give you a proper run-through of the rifle that I used for the match. And I think it's a pretty darn cool rifle, so I wanted to take this opportunity to give you a quick overview of it. This is it. It started out life as a Valmet M62S. This is actually the exact same version of the Valmet that, well, one of the versions that was imported into the US before the 1989 assault weapons ban. They were also sold in Finland. It is essentially a semi-auto version of the Finnish standard military M62 or RK62 rifles. Fundamentally a Kalashnikov pattern rifle, chambered for 7.62 by 39, and originally it had the standard fixed tubular triangle butt plate stock that the Finnish army used. Now, in the US, Valmet sold a wide variety of rifles commercially, and the exact match to the Finnish service rifle is actually a really pretty rare one to find in the US. The thing was, at the time, 5.56 ammo was quite available. 7.62 by 39 ammo in the 1980s was not so available, and so not many people chose to buy Valmets in their original caliber. Instead, they mostly bought them in 5.56, and that's why the 5.56 guns are by far the most available ones in the US today. Now in Finland, the opposite was kind of true. The 7.62 by 39 was by far the more common gun to find sold commercially at this time. So this is a Finnish M62S Valmet, and then using parts from a company called AK 2.0, my fantastic gunsmith over here converted this into a clone of the Finnish RK62 M3. Back in 2015, the Finns started plans to upgrade some of their existing stock of RK62s. These are rifles that date back to being manufactured in the 60s, 70s, maybe 80s, but mostly like 60s and 70s. They're pretty old guns, and they wanted to improve their capabilities for modern combat usage. Specifically, they wanted adjustable stocks so that the guns could be used with new sorts of armor and kit, and by different stature of shooters. They wanted to add optics to the rifles. They wanted to have opportunities to add other accessories like lights and lasers. And so this program in 2015 began. In 2019, they released pictures of the RK62M, and there would ultimately be 3 different versions of this rifle that were made: the M, the M2, and the M3. And what we've cloned here is the M3. So let me give you a little bit of a closer look at what all the different parts of this thing are, because this really isn't a rifle you can find so much in the United States these days. All right, so this is a clone of the M3 pattern, but I'm going to walk you through all 3 of the different versions. Now, first off, I was using mostly Magpul magazines for the match. That's not what the Finnish Army uses, but I don't have an actual Finnish Army magazine handy right now to show you, although I did have one for part of the match. So each iteration of the RK62M added some additional stuff over the top or beyond what was already on the guns. So this is the final iteration. When they started off, one of the main things they wanted was an adjustable stock. So there is a stock adapter that takes AR pattern stocks, and they put just commercial Magpul stocks on the guns, replacing the original tubular stocks. So this was on the M1. The M1 also had an improved safety lever. This is the same style. This is not actually a military safety lever. They're slightly different in minor details, but they wanted the trigger finger release, the trigger finger lever here on the safety. So that was an M1 pattern addition. The optics rail and mount were added to the side on the M1. And then up at the front, the M1 retained the original RK62 black plastic handguard, but they added a little clamp-on adapter on the barrel that had 3 pieces of Picatinny rail at 3, 6, and 9 o'clock for adding accessories, lights, lasers, and that sort of thing. But that's kind of the simplistic way to do it, and the M2 would add a number of additional features. Mainly, the M2 replaced that original handguard with an Mlok handguard. Now, this isn't quite the same style as the official military pattern. This has a lot of Mlok on it. The military ones have just slots, again, at 3 and 9 o'clock, as well as on the bottom at 6 o'clock. So that was added, again, in order to mount lights, lasers, and potentially other accessories that they wanted on the guns. And then the M2 pattern also added a new flash hider. So the M1 retained the original RK62 muzzle brake. The M2 adds this flash hider, which is rather crunchy and dirty from me shooting it through the match. In addition to fitting a sound suppressor, this can also take what they call like a braking device. Essentially, it's a muzzle cone that allows you to center the muzzle over a piece of rebar and shoot it in half. Sort of a modern wire breaker style of muzzle device. And that device threads on right here to the same place that the suppressor would go on. And of course, it can also take a suppressor. Moving on to the M3, everything gets painted green. That's the main upgrade to the M3 pattern. We do actually have one of the military issue pattern suppressors here. They're made by Utra in Finland. It's an SL5I BL. In theory, reduced back pressure suppressor. This still hit me in the face with a little bit of gas, which is not that surprising, given that the AK is a pretty overgassed platform in general, and the Valmet certainly as much overgassed as anything else. Does have kind of a cool flash reducing muzzle device on there, but that was really neat to have. Very effective, didn't give me any problems at all, which is nice. You can see I kind of scuffed it up a bit on some obstacles at the match. And then, thanks to some awesome contacts, we actually have one of the Finnish Army issue Aimpoint T1 micros on this rifle. This is what the Finnish Defense Forces use. It's a standard T1 micro, but with this rubber protective cage around it, which is pretty cool. And it has a double end cap, so that's just a plain cover. And this is actually a kill flash. So you can open the whole thing as a single unit, like so, which is what I was typically doing at the match. But you also have a kill flash there if you want to use it. That, by the way, just prevents reflections off the front lens of the Aimpoint. Now, the parts used to make this clone, apart from the Aimpoint, are not actual Finnish military parts. They are parts made by AK 2.0 here in Finland. And you can make out their markings just barely here on the optics mount as well. These are not exact exact detail for detail copies of the Finnish military pieces, but they are very functional, and they pass the couple meter test. We've got, in some cases, they're a little bit more practical than the military ones. The military adopted its pattern and then left it static. On the commercial side, it's possible to continue improving the parts. So we've got more Mlok opportunity here than on the military one. So this series of modernized RK62s was a project that began, of course, before Finland ended up joining NATO. I think in 2015, 2019, no one really anticipated that NATO membership was going to happen. Now that it has, Finland is going to be adopting a service rifle in 5.56. That'll be the Sako M23. It's an AR type rifle. But these upgrades were already in the system. I have no doubt the Finns are not going to be initially purchasing enough of the new 5.56 rifles to fully equip their entire reserve force. So the RK62s are going to remain in service for quite some time, and these upgrades really are a practical way for them to add modern capabilities, primarily optics, adjustable buttstocks, suppressors, and then lights, lasers, and other modern accessories that you just didn't really have any way to mount on the original RK62 rifles. Ultimately, I had a great time with this rifle in the match. It's a little bit heavy, for sure, but I had no malfunctions, that held zero very nicely. 7.62x39 was a nice bit of oomph to have for the rifle spinner in the one stage where we had to engage a spinner target. It really worked quite well. So I was very happy with it. It's fun to be able to run a match in Finland in Finnish camo with a Finnish clone of a rifle. So big thanks to AK 2.0 for all the help in putting this gun together. They are selling all of these AK upgrade and improvement parts in the United States. So if you're interested in building a clone like this, it is certainly something that you can do. You can check them out. I can't link to them here, but you can find AK 2.0 through things like Google. So big thanks as well to my gunsmith over here in Finland who helped with the work. The product came out awesome. And if you haven't seen the match videos, you should definitely check them out, because Finnish Brutality this year, put on by Valmet, was an amazing, amazing match. Best of the Brutality matches I have yet been to. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this little look at this year's match rifle. Thanks for watching.